At the end of the 18th, beginning of the 19th, end of the 18th century, when, end of the 17th, beginning of the 18th century, when champagne was first being made as a regular product and being sold to Louis XIV for his court and all the rest of it, most of the grapes in Champagne were black grapes, and yet the market was for white champagne. And Dom Pérignon probably didn't invent champagne, but he was around at the time when they had to work out how to make a white wine from black grapes, which is what they still do today. We know that 2/3 of the grapes grown in Champagne are black grapes, but because the juice of the grapes is colourless, and it's only the skins that have colour, if you press the grapes quickly, you can make a white wine from black grapes, what the French call a blanc de noir. And Dom Pérignon worked out that if you have the press houses close to where the grapes are picked, then you can achieve that. And it's exactly what Champagne still does today. The knock-on effect of that was that if you made a rosé champagne, you weren't very good at your job, because the market wanted white champagne. And the original French word for a rosé is taché, which literally means soiled or stained. And for the next 250, 300 years, rosé champagne, frankly, was frowned upon by most producers. They didn't want to make a rosé. It was considered beneath them. And even now, there are some houses who are being dragged screaming into the 21st century to make a rosé. But as ever, financial expediency somehow seems to prevail, so most houses now do make a rosé. But it is only in the last 20, 25 years that rosé has really become mainstream. And I just find that fascinating. And now, so people could ask the question now, well, if that's the case, how can we be sure that rosé is here to stay? Maybe it's just a bit of a fashion, a whim. It's not. Rosé is here to stay. And there's one very serious reason why it's here to stay, and this champagne, I think, exemplifies it. It's that now they are planting vineyards specifically to make, vineyards with Pinot Noir, specifically to make red wines, to make rosé. And that's what's changed. Okay, whereas before, they made rosé. If they did make it, it was a sideline. It was not an aberration, but it wasn't taken too seriously. Oh, there are a few plebs in a market over there who'll drink it, so we'll sell it to them if we have to, type thing. It's totally changed. And now they're taking rosé seriously. And they're planting in the top Grand Cru, the top Pinot Noir Grand Crus, like Bouzy and Ailly. There are a lot of vineyards now where they're choosing the clones, the method of vineyard management, when they pick, everything is geared towards making good red wines, which will then enable them to produce a top quality rosé champagne. And now they've taken that decision, it's going to be expensive to go back. So I think rosé really is here to stay. And in this particular wine, the La Grande, this is made with 15% red wine from a Bouzy Grand Cru vineyard, which is dedicated to making red wines. And I think it shows. And if I have drunk this wine before, it's certainly not for a long time, and I certainly don't recall it, but this is just astonishing. And it's not, I didn't know quite what to expect. Rosé champagne is a lure unto itself. We all know that rosé generally, well, I mean, I'm sure most of us, if we were given a choice, if we were given a rosé to drink, we'd drink the youngest vintage available. Okay, we certainly wouldn't be looking for mature rosé. Champagne breaks all the rules, and there are not just La Grande, but Dom Pérignon, Ruinart particularly. There are some fabulous old rosé champagnes out there, and it's a real treat to get a chance to drink one because it doesn't happen very often. And it just I'm not sure that my wine vocabulary is developing at quite the rate that it ought to describe mature rosé champagnes. But I find that it smells quite honeyed. There's a real honeyed character, and on the palate, there's a sweetness, but it's perfectly balanced by the fizz and just the freshness and of the champagne. And so although I'm conscious of this sweetness to smell, it doesn't taste sweet. It just sort of tastes really satisfying and harmonious. It's beautifully made champagne. But it's, you know, you look at that, it's a colour that we're not particularly familiar with. It smells as if it's not quite sure whether it's red or white, which is probably quite reasonable in the circumstances. But the palate is just fantastic. I think this is astonishing champagne. And it's a real eye-opener for me. Rosé champagne, in my view, is in its infancy. We have yet to see the best of what rosé champagne is going to be able to do, simply because the best vineyards for producing red wine have only recently been planted with the right clones and the right planting density and everything else that goes with it. And the best rosé champagnes are still to come, in my view. It's going to be a really, really exciting sector to watch. And I think to be able to produce a rosé champagne of this quality in '98 is a fantastic achievement.
Thank you very much, Richard, for taking us through.